The United States Constitution, crafted in 1787, established the framework for American democracy. It outlined a system of representative government with three branches: executive, legislative, and judicial. Each branch was designed to check and balance the power of the others. The Constitution, however, did not initially specify who could vote. This crucial detail was left to individual states. In the first presidential election, held in 1789, only white male property owners, a small fraction of the population, were eligible to cast a ballot. George Washington, a national hero, was unanimously chosen as the nation's first president. John Adams became his vice president. This election marked the peaceful transition of power from the Articles of Confederation to the newly formed United States. The first few decades under the Constitution saw the development of political factions. These factions eventually evolved into the two-party system that continues to shape American politics. The Federalist Party, led by Alexander Hamilton, favored a strong central government and a national bank. The Democratic-Republican Party, led by Thomas Jefferson, championed states' rights and a more agrarian society. The election of 1800 witnessed a fierce battle between these emerging parties. Jefferson emerged victorious, marking the first peaceful transfer of power between opposing political parties in American history. This event solidified the principle of peaceful transitions of power, a cornerstone of American democracy. The election of 1800 also highlighted the importance of a clear process for resolving electoral disputes. The election resulted in a tie between Jefferson and his running mate, Aaron Burr. The contest was ultimately decided in the House of Representatives. This experience led to the passage of the 12th Amendment in 1804. This amendment established separate electoral votes for president and vice president, preventing similar deadlocks in the future. The early years of the Republic established the essential structures of American democracy. The Constitution, with its emphasis on separation of powers and checks and balances, laid the groundwork for a government accountable to the people. The development of political parties, though initially divisive, provided a mechanism for organizing differing viewpoints and channeling citizen participation in the political process. The peaceful transfer of power in 1800 demonstrated the strength and resilience of these democratic institutions. The stage was set for a nation grappling with its growing pains, expanding westward, and confronting fundamental questions about equality, liberty, and the meaning of self-government. The 19th century was a period of significant change and upheaval in the United States. The young nation grappled with westward expansion, industrialization, and the institution of slavery. These forces profoundly impacted the evolution of the American electoral system and the expansion of voting rights. One of the most significant trends of this era was the gradual elimination of property requirements for voting. This expansion of the franchise was driven in part by the Jacksonian democracy movement. This movement championed the rights of the common man. By the mid-19th century, most white men, regardless of their economic status, had the right to vote. This expansion of suffrage, however, did not extend to women or people of color. The issue of slavery increasingly divided the nation in the decades leading up to the Civil War. The abolitionist movement gained momentum, demanding an end to this inhumane practice. The debate over slavery infiltrated every aspect of American life. This included the political arena, where it fueled the rise of new political parties and intensified sectional tensions. The election of 1860 marked a turning point in American history. The nation was deeply polarized over the issue of slavery. The election of Abraham Lincoln, a Republican who ran on a platform of preventing the expansion of slavery, was met with outrage in the South. 11 Southern states seceded from the Union, forming the Confederate States of America. The Civil War, the bloodiest conflict in American history, ensued. The Civil War was a watershed moment for the United States. It tested the very fabric of the nation and its commitment to the ideals of liberty and equality. Following the Union victory in 1865, the nation embarked on a complex and challenging period of Reconstruction. The Reconstruction Amendments, the 13th, 14th, and 15th, were added to the Constitution, abolishing slavery, guaranteeing equal protection under the law, and prohibiting the denial of voting rights based on race, color, or previous condition of servitude. These amendments represented a significant step forward for civil rights in the United States. They aimed to create a more just and equitable society for all citizens. However, the promise of these amendments was met with fierce resistance, particularly in the South. Jim Crow laws and other forms of discrimination were enacted to disenfranchise African Americans and undermine their newfound rights. The election of Andrew Jackson in 1828 ushered in a new era in American politics, Jacksonian democracy. Jackson, a war hero and populist, resonated with the common man. He promoted a vision of expanded suffrage, limited government, and individual liberty. Jackson's presidency witnessed a surge in democratic participation. This was particularly true among white men who had previously been excluded from the political process due to property requirements. Political campaigns became more boisterous and participatory. They featured rallies, parades, and passionate speeches. Newspapers played a crucial role in shaping public opinion and mobilizing voters. Jacksonian democracy, however, had its limitations. While it expanded suffrage for white men, it did little to address the rights of women and minorities. In fact, Jackson's presidency coincided with the forced removal of Native American tribes from their ancestral lands, a tragic chapter in American history. The rise of Jacksonian democracy also coincided with the solidification of the two-party system. The Democratic Party, which emerged from the Democratic Republican Party, embraced Jackson's populist ideals. The Whig Party, formed in opposition to Jackson's policies, advocated for a stronger federal government and economic modernization. These two parties dominated American politics for the next several decades. They engaged in fierce debates over issues such as tariffs, banking, and internal improvements. Jacksonian democracy left an indelible mark on American politics. It expanded suffrage, empowered the common man, and shaped the nature of political campaigns. However, it also exposed the limitations of American democracy and the enduring challenges of achieving equality and justice for all. The issue of slavery cast a long shadow over the United States in the 19th century. As the nation expanded westward, the question of whether slavery should be allowed in new territories ignited fierce debates. The Missouri Compromise of 1820 and the Compromise of 1850 were attempts to maintain a delicate balance between slave and free states. However, these compromises ultimately proved untenable. The Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854, which allowed for popular sovereignty, the right of residents to decide whether or not to allow slavery, in new territories further inflamed tensions. The Dred Scott Supreme Court decision of 1857, which ruled that slaves were not citizens and had no standing to sue in federal court, further polarized the nation. The election of 1860 marked a turning point in American history. Abraham Lincoln, a Republican who ran on a platform of preventing the further expansion of slavery, was elected president. Lincoln's victory was unacceptable to the South. 11 Southern states seceded from the Union, forming the Confederate States of America. The Civil War, a brutal and bloody conflict, erupted in 1861. The Civil War was a pivotal moment in the history of American democracy. It was a test of whether a nation founded on the principles of liberty and equality could survive. The Union victory in 1865 preserved the nation and ended the institution of slavery. The Reconstruction era that followed was a time of immense change and upheaval. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery. The 14th Amendment granted citizenship and equal protection under the law to all persons born or naturalized in the United States. And the 15th Amendment prohibited the denial of voting rights based on race, color, or previous condition of servitude.